Gaming Albino.
What's up everyone, I'm the Gaming Albino. Donkey Kong is one of the most iconic characters in all of video gaming. Some of his most memorable games, and a few of my personal favorites, come from the Donkey Kong Country franchise. These are already difficult games, but dodging enemies and jumping over bottomless pits at fast speeds really makes the minecart levels much more intimidating. So I give you today my list of the top 10 hardest Donkey Kong minecart levels. Just as a heads up, this list will only include levels from both Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Without further ado, let's slip into the countdown.
Number 10. Crazy Kart. This was the introductory level to minecarts in the rebooted Donkey Kong Country Returns game. Starting the level, you make your way into a cave where you're shot into the minecart for the very first time. The game gets you used to the new mechanics by placing a few enemies on the track and the occasional bottomless pit. And honestly, there's a few moments where you stand there and do nothing. Suddenly, you're given multiple paths to choose from, one more difficult than the other. Once you've exited the cave, you reach the home stretch. I only died once because I wasn't paying attention.
As an introductory level, it obviously wasn't going to be that hard, so that's why I put it as number 10 on my list.
Number 9. Trunk Twister. Another introductory level, but this one offers a bit more than the previous game. Right after jumping into a cart, you're taught the basic mechanics of jumping and even avoiding a few broken airplanes by ducking. A new dynamic camera angle starts and can be pretty tricky because it's hard to see what's up ahead. This is followed by huge gaps and tilting platforms. As you race down the viney tree, objects fly at you from the background as your cart begins to move faster. Avoid a few more spinning propellers and you've reached the end. I died 0 times, so that proves this level can't be too difficult. Number 8. Rickety Rails. Making your way into another cave, you jump onto another minecart. But this one's a little different because Donkey Kong can jump off the minecart freely, which adds a new spin to the game. On foot, the player jumps across unstable platforms. The whole track starts falling apart as pieces of crystal fall from the ceiling. This forces Donkey Kong to jump from minecart to minecart. At some points, you actually have to start anticipating when the track is going to crumble. The barrels you jump into tend to be lifesavers though. Again, 0 deaths, but this game is getting trickier. Number 7. Grip and Trip. Just like the last level, Donkey Kong has to jump from minecart to minecart, but this time it feels a lot faster. On top of that, there's more enemies scattered around. Occasionally, Donkey Kong will have to ditch his minecart and jump to the closest place to hang from. The coolest part is when you hang from the bottom of a minecart, landing onto smaller minecarts. Surprisingly, I only ended up dying 2 times. This level has really accelerated the craziness. Whoa, and we're only on number 7. Number 6. The Mole Train. This is technically a boss battle and not a level. However, it does take place on a minecart, so technically I'm not cheating. You begin by following a group of moles to retrieve your stolen bananas. Simply, you stay on the minecart jumping over the pickaxes that a pesky mole throws at you. When you catch up, you quite literally play a game of whack-a-mole. The carts disperse and you repeat those steps all over again. On the last one though, the brightness fades and you have to fight the moles in the dark. Lastly, you face the train conductor, who's probably the easiest to defeat. Nevertheless, it was still pretty hard dodging all those pickaxes and all those pesky moles in the dark. Number 5. Sawmill Thrill. Riding through an abandoned sawmill, you can obviously tell nothing's going to go right for you. As expected, right from the start you avoid moving saw blades and old pieces of lumber. It's interesting how the factory builds the track as you're riding on it. It makes it really hard to anticipate what's going to happen next. Continuing on, more wood is cut and the spaces get smaller. Halfway through you end up riding on an old piece of driftwood and glide on the top of the murky water, which adds a neat mechanic of going under the water's surface. Donkey Kong avoids all the beaver dams and sharp logs protruding from the water. Lastly, your log is converted back into a minecart and you continue on the track. The track starts building itself and you have hardly any time to react. This level's always keeping you on the edge of your seat, and for that, I give it the number 5 spot on my list. Number 4. High Tide Ride. This is one of the most calmest looking levels in the game, but it's all a lie. Water spouts spray pieces of the track into the air that you must ride on. Moving at very fast speeds, it's hard to avoid the sharks jumping in the air. Racing into a temple, the player decides what section of the track they'd like to ride on, which is pretty neat, but it's pretty tricky when enemies get in the way, including these barriers that move from side to side. The hardest part is when the stone path comes crashing down, you have barely any time to duck, let alone jump. These sharks come out of nowhere, giving you no time at all to react. Finally, you're given multiple tracks to ride on, but you have to avoid the falling stones. After that, you've reached the end. Thank God. Number 3. Roasting Rails. This is the only minecart level to take place on top of lava, so it looks pretty intimidating. A lot of the time you have to quickly react and avoid fireballs and jump on these vines that will fall apart. So you have no time at all to sit and rest in this level. It's constantly moving, that makes it incredibly difficult to jump from cart to cart. Platforms start melting into lava, forcing you to move even quicker. It's just too much for me. I died 12 times. But to be fair, most of those deaths came from being on the ground and not being in a minecart. So that's why this level isn't a bit higher. Number 2. Prehistoric Path. Taking place in a bone-dry desert, a lot of the ground you stand on begins to sink into the melting tar below. So right away, that's something you gotta keep in the back of your mind. For some reason, I kept screwing up on this area. I'm not even sure why, it's not even that difficult. Eventually you go off-road and are forced to jump on the top of enemies' heads. This was especially difficult for me because I could just never get the jumping just right. The last section involves riding on top of a broken egg. As you continue, it breaks apart and you fall inside, and at this point I was practically spamming the jump button. And to add insult to injury, the last stretch of the track tricks you by continuously falling from your weight, and the pieces of the track only get smaller. I ended up dying 7 times because this level is just so devilishly hard. But it's nothing compared to number 1. Number 1.
No, no more. Please. It was just so difficult. Okay, don't unsubscribe. I'll show you. But don't say I didn't warn you.
Number 1. Bombs Away. Right off the bat, I fall and die because of this tricky jump. You might just think I suck, but look at it. How can you honestly expect something like that so quickly into the level? Surely up ahead, at least the game is kind enough to warn you that you'll have to duck up ahead. After a few moles, you have to perform very short jumps to not kill yourself. More ducking and jumping as ceilings begin to fall. This mole in the foreground begins to throw bombs at you, and it's very distracting to look in the foreground and the background at the same time, without dying. So many times I've used the duck button and Donkey Kong doesn't duck. It's like he deliberately wants to get his head hit or something. And love of God, do not jump here because you will die. Oh good, the fuzzy little guy's dead. Damn it! Ah, damn it! Oh good, he lived long enough just to throw another big bomb at me, thank you. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more crazier, you ride through this bent up, twisted track. And you reach the end.
Oh my god. Whew. And I only died 9 times. Well, that was my list of the top 10 hardest Donkey Kong minecart levels. Make sure to comment below what you thought was the most difficult. And while you're down there, feel free to give me any suggestions for future videos and any constructive criticism. Constructive criticism is always welcome. Other than that, I think that's all. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day. Bye-bye!